Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, More Than a Refugee. Um, okay, we're starting now. So I would like to remind everyone that there is an interpretation from English to Arabic and from Arabic to English. You can choose and click on the globe and choose the language you want to hear us with. بدي أحكي بالعربي بس هالجملة اللي هي إذا أي حدا بحب يسمعنا باللغة العربية بيقدر ينقي اللغة العربية من تحت في زي جلوب موجود تحت بتقدروا تكبسوا عليه وتختاروا اللغة اللي بدكم تسمعونا فيها اليوم سواء عربي أو إنجليزي. I would like also to encourage all of you, if you have any questions, you can click on the QA button, type the question you want, and you can assign the question to the panelists you like to answer your question. I'd like to welcome EFE's many supporters and partners who have joined us today, as well as newcomers to EFE. For those of you who are new to EFE, EFE is a non-profit organization. We are a network of affiliates that operate in Jordan, Palestine, Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, with support offices in the US, Madrid, and Dubai. We train youth and place them in jobs. And the uniqueness of our program is that we find the jobs first and then find youth who match these jobs and then train them on the needed skills. We also offer self-employment and freelance programs for youth. So far, EFE as a network trained more than 120,000 youth, and our job placement rate is around 85%, and women participation in our programs are more than 60% of our youth. This is the fourth event in our acceleration series. We are holding this event today in the occasion of the World Refugee Day on June 20th. Thank you all for joining us, and if you are not already involved with EFE, you can check the website www.efe.org and reach out to us for more involvement. I'm honored today to be joined by Ahmad Awad, the founder and director of the Phoenix Center for Economic and Informatic Studies, Rabeah Hassan, technical advisor with GIZ, and Yamama Mousa, she's the Syrian refugee and an EFE-Jordan alumna. Thank you all for joining us today. If you allow us, we're going to show you a very short video, a 2-minute video that we hope you all enjoy and will allow us to kick off our conversation today.
In the blink of an eye, I became a refugee in 2014. My family and I had to abandon everything in Syria and rebuild our lives in Jordan. At only 15 years old, I had no real direction on how to start my life. My family's financial challenges made continuing my education difficult, but I managed to finish high school. Jordan's highly competitive labor market made finding a job without solid employability skills extremely hard. After a year of endlessly trying to find employment, I participated in Education for Employment's culinary art training in Jordan. The training gave me direction and helped me gain tangible skills to find a sustainable job and earn a steady income.
Start delivery, sir.
I'm now assistant captain at Renshai restaurant at Khuffash group in Amman. The training taught me everything I need to stand out against the competition and be where I am today. I have been at my job for 2 years now. Since the training, I have provided for myself and supported my family. I'm now planning to pursue an education in journalism, so one day I can become the voice of truth for those suffering. My future is bright, filled with hope and aspiration. Your dreams are not impossible. With a little bit of hard work and determination, you too can become the captain of your destiny.
We'd like to thank Alex Vilay and the Vilay Foundation for sponsoring this video. And now I want to turn to Yamama. Welcome, Yamama. Thank you for joining us today. And allow me to ask you, tell us more about yourself. When did you arrive to Jordan? Tell us about your family and why are you in Jordan and until when?
أنا اسمي يماما موسى جداية، عمري 29 سنة، ساكنة بعمان بالعاصمة عمان. وصلت إلى الأردن سنة 2013 ميلادي. سكننا بالعاصمة عمان. عائلتي أنا أول ما أجيت على الأردن أجيت أنا ووالدتي وأخواتي بس. ضل جزء منا خارج الأردن، بعدين انضموا إلي أخواتي الشباب كانوا خارج الأردن. أنا بالأردن أنتم عارفين كلياتكم أنه الوضع بسوريا بسبب الحرب تم تهجيرنا من سوريا إلى بلدان عربية وأوروبية وأجنبية. وصلت إلى الأردن وسكنت فيها، صار لي 9 سنين بالأردن. أنا هلأ مو ناوي أطلع من الأردن نهائياً، لأنه أنا بعتبره وطني الثاني واللي أنا مرتاحة فيه كثير. لغاية الآن ما بفكر نهائياً إني أطلع من الأردن.
Okay, Yamama, thank you. Tell us about your experience with the training you received with EFE-Jordan, and tell us about how you found your job.
أنا تدربت مع EFE عن مدة شهرين، هو في مجال التجميل، وتخصصت بالبيديكير والمانيكير. كيف عرفت عن التدريب؟ أنا عرفت عن التدريب عن طريق التواصل الاجتماعي والسوشيال ميديا، عن طريق صديقاتي. توجهت إلى مكتب EFE ومن خلاله قدمت إلى الدراسة وتم قبولي فيها، وتلقيت كامل التدريب في مجال التجميل وخاصة في البيديكير والمانيكير.
How did you find your job and how long did it take you until you find the job you're working at right now?
أنا طبعاً ما رحت ودورت على الوظيفة، لأنه EFE كان له المجهود الأكبر إنه لقالي هذا الشغل واشتغلت فيه، واللي أنا هلأ حالياً بشتغل فيه صار لي 2 سنين كاملين معاهم. أنا أنهيت فترة التدريب وفورا كانوا ملاقي لي هذا العمل اللي أنا لهلأ شغالة فيه، واللي هو تقريباً أحسن مكان أنا بشتغل فيه وبالعاصمة وبمكان كثير معروف وكثير كويس، اللي هو ريفا سبا، اللي هو وفر لي كثير شغلات عن طريق تصريح العمل، ضمان اجتماعي، تأمين صحي، كافة الحقوق اللي أنا لازم إني أخذها بالعمل اللي أنا فيه. وأنا كثير مبسوطة فيه.
Excellent. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Al-Abdali Mall, who under with the partnership with EBRD, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, have worked with us through their training center inside Al-Abdali Mall as part of their CSR program to allow EFE to train youth, Jordanians and Syrians inside Al-Abdali Mall as part of their CSR program. So we thank Al-Abdali Mall and EBRD for that as well. Now I want to turn to Rabeah. Rabeah, you're the technical advisor with GIZ. We would love to know more about why does GIZ work with refugees in Jordan and what impact has your project achieved with refugees in Jordan, please?
Yeah, thank you, Ghadeer. Maybe first of all, allow me to thank you, Ghadeer, and the EFE team for inviting me to participate in such an important event today. And it's really a great opportunity for me to highlight one of GIZ project working with refugees. Actually, our project is employment-oriented vocational training in skilled crafts. It's one of the special initiative, part of a special initiative designed to stabilize and promote development in North Africa and Middle East. which is commissioned by the German's Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ. Through this initiative, we are aiming to support Syrian refugees as well as Jordanian youth to give them more opportunity to participate in the labor market, also to improve their employability skills to be part of the labor market. As you know that we are in Jordan have like a high rate of a high unemployment rate, and also we have a lot of refugees here in Jordan, and both of them are in the age of between 18 until like 30, sometimes 35 and 40. So this is an indicators means that we have to do a good job to support Jordanian and also Syrian refugees to find jobs in Jordan. Yeah, we are working mainly in the skilled crafts sector, which is, I mean, in the labor market, we found it's a high demand from the private sector in these occupations, and we have a lot of job vacancies in this sector. At the same time, we have like a shortage of demand in this. I mean, the youth, as you know, they are not encouraging to go and to participate in such kind of these training programs, and that's why we are working in. So yeah, and our main impact is to support the employability skills between the age from 18 to 30 to help them to find more jobs in the skilled craft occupations. I mean, like we had a lot of maybe success story I can also mention in this regard. Like we are working with a political partner, Ministry of Labor, and other training provider from NGOs and also governmental institutions. We found that there is a lot of success stories, especially when it's come to women empowerment in the skilled crafts, because this is one of sectors that we found it's easy for women to participate in, and at the same time she can manage between her like daily duties at home, and she can manage this because it's a kind of freelance job. So we found this is in this area we have a lot of success stories, such as women in those remote areas who started their own jobs, or they are working per piece. So they start gaining an income through this kind of jobs. And also we had a lot of Syrian refugees who already has a good like skills in this field. So we make a kind of exchange between the experiences between Syrian and Jordanian women. And also we had some Jordanian youth who found their path after they participate in career guidance sessions and in the vocational training programs. So they found their talent, that they are good in some crafts occupation that they didn't like noticed before. So we had one of them now, he started working as a trainer with the Greater Amman municipality after he finished this pottery training. So he took the training with us through one of training institutions. After he finished the training courses, he found himself that he's able now to learn this to youth, and he started now his career as a trainer. So I think we had a lot of success story in this regards. We can like also same like Yamama, I found her really a good example about these women, and especially when it's come to women refugees. So I think that's from our project side. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you, Rabeah. I also would like to mention the great impact the campaign GIZ and EFE-Jordan has launched last year to encourage youth, both Jordanians and Syrians, to enter the vocational jobs and to participate in the vocational jobs. And we're about to launch the phase 2 of the program, of the campaign. And we're so much looking forward, and we understand how much these campaigns can change cultures and how they can encourage both Jordanians and Syrians in Jordan to be able to participate in these jobs. So we thank you again. I want to turn to Ahmad, and I would like to ask you if you could give us some examples of how some other countries turned the refugees into an opportunity to develop their country, please.
Thank you, Ghadeer. Before starting to answer your questions, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to participate in this fruitful webinar, and to thank EFE team for their great job. We followed all details of your job in Jordan, and we see the impact of this work. At the beginning, I would like to point out that there is no country in the world don't have refugees or migrants. So, which means that we should deal with this humanitarian and social phenomena as an existing reality, and we should take into consideration the refugees available everywhere. We should respect their rights based on the international standards for that. And one of the most important rights for them are right to work. Based on that, most of refugees in the region, as you know, Palestinians, Syrians, and Iraqis. Now there is some thousands of Yemenis, dozens of thousands of Yemenis in other countries, but most of refugees in the region are Palestinian, Syrian, and refugees. Many countries received Syrian refugees during the last decades. You can say Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, Germany, and Canada. Each one of these countries has success stories, has a special experience, how they deal with the refugees and how they change them, turn them to be an opportunity, not to deal them as a burden. So if you look at some figures in Jordan, as you know, we have 130,000 Syrian refugees. Half of them registered to the UNHCR, and the other are not recognized as refugees, but all of them are Syrians and refugees living in Jordan. In Lebanon, approximately 1.5 million Syrian refugees. In Turkey, it's approximately 1 million, less than or more. In Germany, it's a big number. It's 800,000. One of the success stories we can explain about how they integrate refugees in their community. Just to look what happened in Germany, half of refugees from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, integrated in the labor market. And they started with them to engage them to the community. They started from increase their capacity in German language. In Turkey, I think, but a little bit efforts in this track to integrate them in the labor, their communities. Then they started in Germany to, in cooperation with the business sector, to enable them to increase their capacity, to rehabilitate them, to get knowledge and the skills needed for the labor market in Germany. And so the impact of refugees in, for example, in Germany, participated or contributed to increase the GDP of Germany, for example, to find a youth labor market, skilled labor market, to participate on their economy. So they are dealing with them as opportunity from the beginning. In Jordan, for example, also we have a good story for that, I think, but there is no need in Jordan to enable them to use the Arabic language, because both of them, Jordanian and Syrians, use the same language. So at the beginning, they are not integrated into the labor market, but during the last few years, there is no systematic plan to integrate into the labor market. but already they are integrating in the informal economy, working as by informal way. I think these dynamics, special dynamics in Jordan, started by unsystematic way, but after that, in cooperation with ILO and international NGOs or Jordanian NGOs, to develop a concrete, specific rehabilitation programs to enable them to have some skills to integrate in the labor market. And now we can say there is no specific figures regarding how many Syrian refugees working in the labor market, but most of estimates reveal that from 150,000 to 200,000. Unfortunately, most of them working in the informal way. They are working by daily work. They are, we can say, based on our experience and our observation in the labor market, as you know, we have a Jordan Labor Watch. They are not compete Jordanians in the formal economy, but they compete other migrant workers. They compete Egyptians. But I can point out about the GDP during the first year the Syrians entered to Jordan. In 2011, the number 12, sorry, the GDP increased to be registered 3.1%. Before that, it was 2, and after that, 2. You know, I think because they increased the demand, it's not just to employ them in the labor market, because they received a lot of international and regional aid assistance, and they increase their purchasing ability. They increase the domestic demands, and domestic demands, it's one of the 4th very significant component of the economic growth. So I think always there is opportunity to turn the burden to be opportunities, and this is happening in many countries.
Thank you very much. And you were also speaking about the Syrians not necessarily competing with the Jordanian jobs in Jordan, because we all understand the burden on the Ministry of Labor and others with the high unemployment rate between Jordanians here in Jordan. So from what you're saying, there is still room for the Syrian refugees to be able to contribute to the economy and work in jobs that are not necessarily competing with the Jordanians. So this is a very, very important comment. If you allow me, I'm going to share my screen and go very quickly through this very short presentation to tell you a little bit about the statistics and numbers that we found on the internet, actually, but it would allow us to elaborate more about refugees in general. So it's important to remind people of the definition of the refugees and the internally displaced people. A refugee is someone who has been forced to flee their country because of the war, basically, and they have to leave their countries. The IDPs are people who usually change the place of residency into other areas, sometimes in the same country. Worldwide, because we're speaking about the World Refugee Day, there are more than 26 million refugees in the world and about 80 million IDPs. The statistics about the refugees from the Arab countries, I'm trying to look, yes. So there is more than 7 million Palestinian refugees, almost 6.6 million Syrian refugees in the world, almost 4 million Yemenis, and about 3 million Iraqis, and recently also from South Sudan. The UNHCR statistics about the refugees in the MENA and Turkey. Turkey has absorbed about 3.6 million, mostly Syrians. Lebanon has absorbed, as you said, Ahmad, about 880,000, majority from Syria. Also, in Egypt, they absorbed a number of Syrian refugees. And it's worth mentioning that Syria at some point hosted more than 500,000 Palestinian refugees in Syria before the war, of course. The UNHCR registered refugees in Jordan, as you pointed out also, with the exception of Palestine, we will elaborate in another slide, but basically mostly Syrians, and then the Iraqis, Yemenis, Sudanese, Somalians, and others. According to UNRWA statistics, there is more than 2 million Palestinian refugees registered in Jordan. We like to remind people with the restrictions, and there are some sectors that Syrian refugees cannot work with in Jordan for different reasons, as we mentioned earlier, for the competition with the Jordanian labor. So these are the sectors that we take into consideration when we want to work with Syrians, because we want to help them work in the formal sector, and therefore we don't go into these sectors. We choose the ones that they can issue work permits and allow them to formally work in the formal sector in Jordan. EFE-Jordan has been working with Syrians for a few years now, almost since 2017. We have worked with more than 2,000 Syrian refugees since then. Not only Syrian refugees, actually. We have, as part of the CSR, the corporate social responsibility from EFE, we have worked with different other nationalities like Iraqis, Sudanese, Yemenis, Libyans, and one Somali so far, because we think, although not many programs or projects are funded to help the rest of the refugees in Jordan, we think as EFE-Jordan, it's our responsibility to try to help other Arabs who live in Jordan as well. These are the donors and partners we have been working with in Jordan as EFE-Jordan, who have helped to work with the refugees in Jordan. We thank all of them. All of them have contributed tremendously with enabling Syrian refugees to access the labor market, in addition, of course, to the Jordanian labor market and the Jordanian youth as well. So I just wanted to share the statistics and the numbers that we think are important for today's session. If you allow me now, I'm going to turn to Yamama again and ask Yamama about your future. How do you see your future? Now you have new skills than the ones you came with, and how do you see your future and what are you going to do next?
أكيد أنا أول ما أجيت على الأردن ضليت 3 سنين تقريبا، ما عندي أي هدف، ما عندي أي شغل، ما عندي أي شيء. بعد 3 سنين قررت إني أطور حالي، وكان عندي موهبة بحبها من زمان اللي هي موهبة التجميل. فمن خلال دراستي مع الEFE تطورت هاي الشغلة عندي وزادت من تجربتي، كانت كتير جيدة، وتطورت من ذاتي وتطورت من شخصيتي طبعا. وحصلت بعد تعب على الدراسة تبعتي وعلى شهادتي واشتغلت فيها. من خلال أنا قلت إنه أول ما وصلت يعني ما عندي أي شيء، ما عندي أي حلم، ما عندي أي هدف بالحياة. فمن خلال تجربتي مع الEFE صار عندي تجربة كتير حلوة، وصار عندي هدف إني أنا أكمل تجربتي ودراستي وأعمل فيها. أكيد يعني أكيد ما راح أدرس فيها وأقعد ما أشتغل فيها نهائياً. كملت هذا الشيء بالشغل معاهم، وتطورت هاي الشغلة، يعني طورت دراستي فيها كتير.
But do you think you're going to continue working as an employee in this spa? Are you going to be doing anything else you think after a few years? How do you see your future?
أكيد رح كمل فيها لأن هاي موهبة أنا بحبها كثير وطورت منها. فكر بالمستقبل إن شاء الله أني أفتح مشروع خاص فيني أنا بضم كافة الجنسيات وكافة الجهات الشبابية اللي هي كانت ذكور أو إناث، بكون عندهم يعني بكون عندهم هذا العمل، هن مو مطورينه من حالهم مثل ما أنا طورت من حالي إنه يشتغلوا فيه. أكيد.
Excellent. I want to ask you, Rabeah, about the GIZ project in Jordan. Which sectors does it concentrate on, and how do you choose these sectors?
Actually, our project work in skilled crafts, but unfortunately, we don't have in Jordan any identification of skilled crafts. But usually we are referring to a list prepared by ZDH, which is the German Federation for Skilled Crafts. They identified which kind of occupation under this sector. But normally skilled crafts mean handicrafts sometimes. And also there is another occupation such as carpenters, welding, blacksmith, and all these beauty also. All these crafts, like if you have to do something manually or sometimes by using assemble machines. This is normally what is the skilled craft sector. So it's like an open, and you can find a lot of occupation like across between 2 or 3 or maybe more than 2 sectors. So we are, but at least to know which kind of occupation that we are focused on, we are usually working with partners, Jordanian partners, like NGOs and training provider. We work with them to do a kind of a labor market analysis or assessment to identify which is the highly needed in the labor market before we started any training program. So this is mainly our focus in this sector.
And I also want to take the opportunity, Rabeah, to speak about, maybe you tell us a little bit more about the campaign we launched last year, and we will continue working with you on, and how you think it approached youth in Jordan, and how perhaps from what you see, whether it started changing the culture of people towards vocational jobs as well.
Yeah, maybe I can start with the project itself. We are working in 3 components mainly. The first one is career guidance, and maybe all of us knows how is the importance of career guidance services. It's helped the students to know more about themselves, to find their talent, to identify their which kind of skills that they have. After that, we help them to choose the occupation or the training program before they started the vocational training program. The second one is implementing vocational training program, which is with the training providers here in Jordan. And the third one is establishing a cooperation between partners. So the image campaign is part of this component, which is we establish a kind of cooperation between a Jordanian and German partner. So it was EFE, with KH, one of the skilled craft chambers in Germany. They had a good experience in implementing campaigns to encourage youth to participate in the vocational training, especially in the skilled crafts. And yeah, I would like to thank you about your efforts, what you made. You are really, by the way, yesterday I was talking to one of my colleagues. He just joined GIZ. He came from Germany, and he said that he knows EFE and our project through one of the image campaign videos. So I was really happy that maybe we now start feeling that this campaign make a change and helps everyone to know about the skilled crafts and to encourage youth to participate in these training programs. So yeah, thank you for your efforts, and I feel it's our pleasure always working with you, and also to start the phase 2. And we had like a kick-off meeting last week with the Jordanian government, TBSTC, and the Ministry of Labor, and they all also happy to start phase 2 of the image campaign, because it was well organized and the messages was creative in the way that they can really go directly to our target group. So I hope also we will do another success story together, inshallah, this year. And we can also support more youth and encourage them to participate, because this is really an important opportunity to help the student to know themselves. Also, as Yamama mentioned before, she found herself in beauty or in this kind of occupation, because if you find yourself, if you know yourself better, you can be like satisfied in the future. You can like feel you are really like your job, and you can also benefit. It's not already a money or an income. It's always to know yourself and to start improving yourself. So it's like also skilled crafts and handicrafts. It's an art. So if you start finding yourself in this sector, you will like easily going and growing, and also start thinking of, like Yamama now mentioned, she wants to start her own businesses. So this is really a great success and a good example for our youth.
Excellent, thank you, Rabeah. And also I'd like to mention that EFE-Jordan in specific focus a lot on vocational skills. We work with university and non-university graduates, but perhaps almost 20% of our youth are from the university graduates, and 80% are from the vocational track that we like to concentrate on for different reasons. One of them is this is where the jobs are, and the others is we want to work with this target group of people. Ahmad, allow me to ask you, how can our laws become more welcoming to refugees in the labor market without increasing unemployment among Jordanian youth? Ahmad, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I hear you now.
Yeah, shall I repeat the question?
Please repeat your question, yeah, please.
Yes, so my question is, how can the laws in Jordan become more welcoming to the refugees in the labor market without increasing unemployment among Jordanian youth? It's already a high unemployment rate between Jordanians in Jordan.
Great question. I think we should start from convincing the policymakers in Jordan that the refugees are human and it's a humanitarian phenomena, and we should respect their rights, as I mentioned during the first intervention, and we should keep their rights to work. This is one thing. The other thing, I think we should start from removing restrictions on some jobs to enable all refugees to work in every jobs. I know many countries all over the world put restrictions in some jobs in order to keep the rights of the citizenship to work. It's a good idea, but if we put restrictions on the refugees not to work in some economic activities, it doesn't mean they will not work on it. Because always reality is more power than theory and legislations. So in order to empower, to maximize the benefit for Syrian refugees themselves and for the national economies for different countries, we should formalize them, enable them to work by legal way, by formal way. What does it mean? It means that we will keep or provide them, refugees themselves, the protections needed for their life. And the second aspect, the national economy will benefit from them, because if they work legally, work formally, they will pay taxes, they will impact on the economic growth in the country. So availability of restrictions doesn't mean it will keep the opportunities for citizen workers. Equitable or equal competitiveness between national and refugees should be developed based on or established based on the skills they should acquire. This is one thing. The second thing, we should go to make some amendments on some legislations in the labor code and the social security code to provide the all workers, including refugees, all or equal rights in the labor market. I think in Jordan, for example, we have semi-success stories on that because the social security law and labor law are not discriminate between Jordanians and non-Jordanians workers in Jordan, which is, I think, one of the success stories we should focus on. But unfortunately, we have a black point happened a few years ago in Jordan. In one of the Jordanian government and ILO programs, when they decided to provide Syrian refugees in agriculture sector and in the construction sector a free work permit, they didn't guarantee their right to social security. And we criticized this idea on that time, but unfortunately it doesn't, till now they are not amended that. When we are talking about success stories, we should focus on some shortages, some gaps. We should work on that. So I can say that removing all restrictions will facilitate to turn the burden to be opportunity. This is the only way we can keep the rights of refugees and we can keep the rights of national people and maximize the benefit of the added value that refugees, especially workers, in the economy. This is the main areas we should focus on.
Right, thank you for your comments. And I think regarding the work permits and all, I think things have improved since Jordan started accepting refugees in Jordan. I think we all went through a learning experience with the work permits, how they issue them, how they renew them, which sectors. I think there has been some progress, but I also understand your recommendations in order to absorb the other refugees in Jordan as well. Now I actually want to move to the questions that are posted by the participants, the people who are watching us today. And so some of the questions have been already answered by you, Ahmad, just right now, but I will go to the questions that haven't been answered fully. Rabeah, one of the questions, perhaps it's to you, it says, did the training include helping the refugees shape their mindset about their new situation? That is being employable in a country where they are foreign. Did they need any special training in this regard?
Yes, I can understand this point. It's really important, and that's why we started with career guidance. Because our aim is to support them to improve their employability skills. So that's why we start with career guidance before the vocational training, which help the students, as I mentioned before, to know more about themselves and also to choose the correct training courses that match their talent and also their skills and all these things.
Yes, thank you. And actually, also they're asking EFE-Jordan about their experience in this field as well. So as you mentioned, Rabeah, with EFE, we provide also career guidance and career counseling for applicants who apply to EFE-Jordan's programs. We don't just accept people into the programs they apply to just automatically. They go through career counseling session with the team to be advised on what works with them, what doesn't work with them. and for them to be able to select something that is suitable for them as well. Soft skills and what we call employability or work readiness programs are very important to both Jordanians and Syrians. It shifts their mindsets into the workplace. It allows people to think about the workplace and how to work with different nationalities. For example, for the Syrians to be able to work with the Jordanians, and so on. So it has been an important sort of training. Also, for the Syrians in particular, we integrate as part of our programs involving lawyers to train those specifically who want to establish their businesses. This is an important process that we don't want them to fail with. So in order for the Syrians to register home-based businesses or to register their small businesses, they go through legal counseling with lawyers we work with, so that they are also aware of the regulations. So this was one of the questions. Another question, perhaps to both of you, Ahmad and Rabeah, they asked, which part of the training do you think had the most impact on the livelihood? If we're going to train Syrians, what should we concentrate on, perhaps, to improve their livelihoods? Ahmad, can we go with you first?
Okay. Thank you. I think the most of the Syrian refugees in Jordan, or refugees in general in Jordan, are badly needed to know more about the business culture. They are coming from completely different business culture, and we should share with them and increase their capacity to know that and to use that in their work. This is the first thing. The second thing, in Jordan, and many of refugees grown in Jordan, already grown in Jordan, and they are not engaged in any educational or vocational training in some jobs, because they enter Jordan when they are child. Now they are in the age of work. So I think they should, Jordanian labor market are badly needed. Many skilled persons to work in the construction, on the agriculture sector. So I suggest I recommend the government to enable them to integrate, and they are already integrated, but they should expand the capacity of vocational training center in Jordan, all over Jordan, to accept and to increase their capacity to work on the jobs that they are now Jordanian to work on that. It's normal all over the world. Some economic activities, some jobs, the national people don't like to work on that. It's normal. I think it's available in Europe, it's available in the United States, in Canada, and other countries. So we should encourage them to increase their capacity to work in these economic. Finally, we need to reach two main objectives, to achieve two main objectives. First, to keep the refugees' rights. The second, to benefit from this workforce, to expand our economy, to enhance our economy, now to overcome the recession we are suffering from. So I think it's a benefit for both sides.
Excellent. Rabeah, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think Dr. Ahmad covered a lot of areas, but maybe the first thing that we should keep it in our mind that, like, let's try to avoid any kind of discrimination between refugees and youth. Youth are youth. And if you need to work with them in a training or in a career guidance, you have to talk to them in the same way. They are similar. They have the same talent. They have the same feelings. And we are close to their culture. So there is no a big gap between. There is no gap between Jordanian and Syrian youth. youth. Maybe some of those refugees need to support to another type of support, which is that if they are like feeling that maybe they are under special circumstances after this the war, or after this, maybe it's a special things out of the training or out of our services. Because yeah, like if you need to be to work with them in training or in career to help them to find their jobs, you should be neutral, not to have like special things for the Syrian refugees. Maybe we have to also do a kind of orientation about their the work permit. Sometimes we need to give them an information about the closed occupation here in Jordan for non-Jordanians. This kind of information, which is more related to the labor law, that they need to know about Jordan. But other things, I didn't find any kind of like differences between Jordanian and Syrian youth.
Okay, thank you. There's a question from Kasir Rafik, and he's asking EFE whether we contribute to policy development or at least amendment in the rights of refugees living in Jordan. My answer is through our donors and partners, USAID, AFD, the UK Aid, EBRD, GIZ, EU, the UN agencies and all, we participate with them in our meetings in conveying the messages we learn from the refugees and how we see their rights. And they form roundtables, workshops, and we convey our messages through these platforms that enable us to contribute to the policy making in the end. So it's a continuous conversation with the Ministry of Labor, with different other ministries in order to enhance the work environment for Jordanians and refugees. I want to ask Yamama a question. One of the questions we received asks, what is the refugees' biggest challenge in the workplace?
الأكثر شيء أنا تعرضت له إنه أنت كلاجئة سورية كيف بتقدر تشتغلي بهذا المجال هون بالأردن؟ هذا مو شيء صعب نهائياً. هذا الشيء بيقوي نفسي وذاتي قدام المجتمع كله إذا كان غربي ولا شرقي، إني أنا بقدر أشتغل. خصوصي الشغلة اللي أنا بشتغل فيها مجال التجميل اللي هي النيل الأظافر، مو بس الجهة الفلبين بيشتغلوا فيها، أنا كمان بشتغل فيها. أنا كوني عربية بقدر إني أشتغل فيها كمان، مو بس الجهة الفلبين. في ناس كتير بتحب تجرب إنه أشتغل لهم، وكان هذا تجربة كتير حلوة بالنسبة لي. في ناس بتقتنع بشغلي وبتجربتي، بدي ببين للعالم أجمع إني أنا كمان بقدر أشتغل وبطلع مواهبي فيها كمان.
Excellent. So, okay, another question from Palestine, actually, from my colleague Saro. He's asking, are there mixed training sessions between Jordanian and Syrian refugees or separate groups? I want to answer from EFE's perspective, but also I would like to hear from Ahmad and Rabeah whether you witnessed something else through your other projects or through the people you have been working with. So within EFE, we executed two types of training regarding the Syrian refugees. We did conduct training courses where we have both Jordanians and Syrians in the same class. And I remember an example of that is a session we opened for the garment sector. There were Syrian refugees and there were Jordanians in the same class. And the beauty about it is that each one of them has a job opportunity waiting for her after the end of the session. So there was no tension, there were no issues between the two because both of them understand that they are not competing. Both of them have jobs in the market. So it went really well. Now, some other times we open different classes or different sessions for Syrian refugees and different sessions for Jordanians if we're focusing on specific sectors for Jordanians that are closed for the Syrian refugees. So it depends on the sector, it depends on the jobs that we're preparing them for. I don't know if you have you like to add anything, Ahmad, and then Rabeah?
Yes. Based on our experience and based on our observations in Jordan, I can say that most of training sessions, most of capacity buildings trainings conducted to Jordanian and Syrian refugees in Jordan during the last 10 years, all of these sessions are mixed for Syrian refugees and for Jordanians. The capacity building trainings conducted by two sides. We can say civil society organizations, Jordanian civil societies, international civil societies, integrated Syrians and Jordanians in both the trainings. In addition to the government also. Now, if you reviewed the reports of the vocational training center institutes, we can see Syrians refugees in all trainings in their countries. I think in their programs. I think we registered some successions in this way. And this is the only way to keep their rights and to benefit from their availabilities in Jordan and to turn them to be opportunities.
Yeah, I think from GIZ side, our project implemented by Jordanian partners, NGOs, and training providers, and they usually conduct the training courses. And our objective to have 50-50 Jordanian and Syrian refugees. So it's usually, as Ghadeer mentioned, sometimes they are mixed, sometimes based on the training course itself, if it's in a closed occupation or not. So this is only the reasons to have sometimes Syrian only or Jordanian only, but we don't face any problem with having mixed Syrian refugees and Jordanian at the same time.
Right, thank you. I want to ask Yamama another question. Yamama, what is your advice to youth in general and to the Syrian youth in particular, and especially women and ladies like you who are in Jordan? What do you encourage them to do? What do you advise them to do in terms of finding a job or staying at home, or what would they do in their lives?
طبعا أنا ما ذكرت لك إني أنا دارس دبلوم إدارة أعمال، بس أنا ما اشتغلت فيها طبعا لأنه أنا كثير كنت بحب التجميل، فاتجهت لدراسة التجميل واشتغلت فيها. أنا بنصح كل لاجئ ولاجئة إن هي ما تخلي ببالها إن هي لاجئة. هذا بيكون وطن الثاني طبعا. ما تحس حالها إن هي مغتربة أو بمجتمع غريب أبدا نهائيا، هذا الشيء غلط. خليهم يشيلوا من فكرهم هذا التفكير الغلط اللي هي حاطته ببالها. بالعكس هي بين أهلها بين ناسها كثير أشخاص طيبين، كثير أشخاص كويسين، بيعطوك دافع كثير منيح معنوي. وطبعا مع الEFE أعطاني دافع معنوي ومادي، وعملي كمان إني اشتغلت فيه. أنت ما تحكي أنا ما عندي مهارة، أنا ما عندي أي شيء جواتي. طوري حالك، اشتغلي، تدربي مع الEFE، بتلاقي الشيء اللي أنت بدك إياه، اللي هو تدريب أي شيء كان بدك إياه، اللي هو التجميل اللي أنا اشتغلت فيه، تدربت عليه واشتغلت فيه، وهني أمنوا لي فرصة كثير حلوة وبأحسن مكان. ما تخافي إنه هني ما يأمنوا لك عمل كويس، لا بالعكس، هني أمنوا لي فرصة كثير كويسة أنا ما كنت بحلم فيها نهائياً. هي أعطتني دافع معنوي مادي، أنا بساعد أهلي، بساعد نفسي، بساعد الناس اللي حوالي، بساعد المجتمع الأردني اللي أنا معه. أكيد هن بيكتسبوا من بشتغل معاهم من خلال اكتساب خبرتي معاهم. أكيد يعني أنا بهذا الشيء بساعد نفسي وبساعد أهلي وبساعدهم هن كمان إني أنا بشتغل معاهم. وفرصة عمل، في فرص عمل كتير بتلاقيها. ما تحكي أنا لقيت فرصة عمل أنا ما نجحت فيها أبداً. ضلك دوري. الشباب هلأ حالياً بس يكون عندهم أي عثرة قدامهم أو أي غلط، هن بيقعدوا بيحكوا خلص أنا ما عاد بدي أجرب. بالعكس جربي وحاولي أكثر من مرة، مو من أول مرة بزبط معك إنك تلاقي شغل وإنك تتدربي أبدا نهائيا. أكيد أي حدا فينا ما وصل لهي المرحلة إلا ما يكون عنده لا أشياء مشاكل وأخطاء أبدا. أنت طوري حالك وطوري نفسك مشان تساعدي حالك، أنت ترضي حالك من جوا. أكيد أنا هلأ راضي كثير عن حالي وأنا مبسوطة كثير بحياتي، وبتشجيع EFE طبعاً وتشجيع أهلي إلي، وأنا هلأ بمكاني كثير كويسة والكل بشجعني، ولهلأ الكل بشجعني إني أكمل فيها. وأنا مالي EFE طبعاً لهلأ متواصلين معي بالشغل اللي أنا فيه، كل فترة وفترة بيحكوا معي وبيطمنوا عني وعن شغلي.
تمام. Thank you, Yamama. شكرا. These are very inspiring thoughts that you're sharing with us that will inspire all youth listening to us today. I want to close with a closing statement from Rabeah and Ahmad. It was a great session and I thank you again so much, but we want a closing sentence perhaps from Rabeah and Ahmad, please.
Thank you, Ghadeer. Thank you for this session and for Dr. Ahmad and Yamama. It was really a great session and I learned a lot from both of you. And Yamama, it's really an amazing story and really it's an inspiring words what you just shared with us. Yeah, I would like to thank everyone who participated with us, and let's, as we already discussed, let's turn this to be an opportunity for both sides, Jordanian and Syrian refugees, to learn from each other, to exchange their experience in order to improve our economy. We are living in the same place, so I think it's our responsibility, both sides, to improve this community and to make our life better. Thank you for this session. Thank you so much.
Ahmad?
Please let me answer quick questions that I read it now, then close my interventions. One of the participants asked me how the refugees have the right to work. Is that formally recognized right internationally, and in which charter or documents? I think most of the international conventions to respect the human rights, talking about respecting the government should be not use any discrimination measures and actions between national people and migrant or foreigner peoples if the government accept to receive them. The government have the right to not receive any migrant, any refugees based on its circumstances. But if the government accept to receive them, they should deal with them without any discrimination. And the International Convention of Socio-Economic and Cultural Rights has many articles regarding that, and there is a lot of conventions respecting that. I think the closing remarks, I think no choices for any hosting countries other than respecting the rights of refugees and to benefit from them to maximize or to expand their economy. It's a workforce available in their country. They should benefit from this opportunity. It's opportunity, really, it's opportunity to maximize the benefits from them, to expand their economy, etc., etc., etc.
Thank you. They are definitely more than refugees, and they are definitely a great added value to the countries they are at. So I want to thank the three of you again. Thank you very much, and thank you to all of the participants today, to the people who joined us, and we'll definitely stay in touch. And thank you so much, Yamama, again. Thank you, Dr. Ahmad, and thank you, Rabeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.